I should have finished eating whatever I'm eating. I think it's called cashew, but whatever. So this is what a man at his lowest looks like. You might imagine someone with a bell face, someone who is actually having these symptoms in their face that you feel like it's too gray, like the pride in their face just wiped away by something, and you might like actually be very curious what the reason is. But like it's not always the case for many of the people, and especially for me, it never has been the case that, um, yeah, the things that actually make you at your lowest might not actually appear in your face or like wherever in your body. Actually, that happens for me when I'm fighting something with my body. I mean, like when I'm sick, but not when I'm actually at my lowest. I have any negative emotions. I don't think that reflects on my face a lot. It might reflect in things like my social media appearance. That's all. But like, it's never correlated because like there are times when I disappear from social media because I'm very happy. So like you might never find this, um, yeah, relationship that can be very predictable. So it's not a good indicator, but whatever. Sorry. So there is this lesson. Whenever you are having a negative emotion, uh, most of the time I myself found myself that I diluted the reason why I'm having this negative emotion at this very moment to the most recent thing or set of things that I can think about and then label them, right? So I'm having, let's say that I'm have already like I did have a lot of negative emotions today, and like they peaked a lot, and I don't have time for that. I want to like keep doing my things. I don't want to have these emotions. I don't want it to interrupt my pace, but they start to get some existential questions that I really needed to answer. And for a long period of my life, I thought that as long as I'm distracted, I will be okay. But then like that's the core of the topic and the essence of the topic that I want to discuss today. But let's go back to build this, let's have this chain of thought that would allow us later to better understand what I'm trying to elaborate and what I'm trying to illustrate. So let's start by this. So most of us have negative feelings, right? And it happens from time to time. And the very first thing that you want to do if you are a normal person is to ask yourself why I'm having this. And there are people who I consider they are not going to be categorized as non-normal person or like weird person, but it's the not very default reason for why is to try to ignore the feelings that you have currently and try to, yeah, wipe it away with whatever you are going to do, whether like get distracted with playing games or playing some music, going outside, do whatever, shopping. So we have two kinds of people. So I'm talking from a standpoint of someone who's like rational, who's trying to sit with themselves. They call them emotional scientists. They are the ones who sit with themselves and try to explore why they are feeling this feeling. And especially like you are more interested in exploring the negative feelings because if you know the factors, you will try to avoid them in the next time, and then you will be a better human, right? Um, you will have a better quality of life. That doesn't mean necessarily you're going to be a better human, but whatever. So that's what I've been doing. Yes, right. But the reasons I was actually wanting to when I'm having a negative emotions were not most of the time the actual reasons, or I'm not really sure about that. But I'm actually having this thought, having this theory at this very moment that if you try to explain your emotions and you had this negative emotion and you try to explain it why, you know, you want to know the factors of why this emotion is, you might most of the time default your brain to the most recent, or at least in my case to the most recent negative factors that were in your life. Let's say that you moved to a new city that you didn't like, or you are now staying away from your family, or within the city you live there are no friends that you have, or let's say that the sleeping screen just pops up. So, yeah, you can enumerate reasons and factors for a long time, and I'm by factors I mean the most recent ones. And I've already like enumerated some examples that would be, and adding things that yeah it might have nothing to do with people but by yourself, that you maybe you were keeping yourself very busy and you worked your ass up for the past 6 months, let's say, and that you didn't have much of a social life. Okay, that's also a factor of people, but I'm saying whatever, right? So okay, so going back to yeah, we might have these reasons actually, but that doesn't mean they are the right reasons to pick for your negative emotion. Uh, Being the most recent emotion and the retrieval is very easy in terms of memory, but that doesn't mean that they are the right reason. And that's what I started to think about. Now, actually, the mechanism that my mind had to dilute or allude to these reasons was because I want just to find the fastest reason I can tag it with my negative emotion so I can just keep producing and stay productive throughout the day. That was it. Like, I really don't want something to Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. I really don't want something that can burden me throughout the day. Already like enumerated some of the reasons, and like they don't have to be necessarily around people, right? There are like more factors that you might consider at that very moment and consider to be a most recent factor that happened in your life, something that changed and you can retrieve it easily. Because at the end of the day, what you are going to do is the retrieval is easy for these kind of factors because they are recent. So in terms of memory, you can retrieve them very easy and very fast. And in my case, I was doing this not because they were the right reason at most. Like, I never had a mechanism for checking if they are the right reasons for my negative emotion, the right factors or not. But the mechanism that it was working and it was getting me these most recent, because in terms of memory, it was because there is an inner voice in me that says, please, like, get whatever reason that will work and will shut your mind and will make the day productive. Because at the end of the day, I really don't want something like to cut my pace and make me just to stop and wonder about what negative emotions I do have inside. I don't want to. I don't want to deal with that. I wish like emotions were something that I would just like grab away and throw it. But of course, like that would hurt my even good emotions and positive emotions that I would have throughout my life. So that's the mechanism that I discovered myself I was doing, because I was actually prioritizing the productivity of the day. And by productivity, I don't mean I'm someone like who's into discipline and I season my potato with discipline, but I'm someone who's actually I just want to do my stuff. I just want to like there are a list of things that I want to do throughout the day. It makes me not someone who is going to be financially independent in the future. It's not going to be someone who's actually more, yeah, whatever, smarter. It's for my own sake. It's for me to actually be able to answer all the questions that I have no answer to. So at the end of the day, I want to complete that. So that would require me actually to compensate for my feeling, even if I treat it, even if I get the time and like I stopped, I paused and I said, let's look at my feeling. But I would never actually um, maybe give it the real thought of what I'm doing or what I'm actually suffering from. And that's remind me of my friends. He told me that, like, how do you switch between tasks very, uh, let's say, seamlessly? I think that was his question because, yeah, there are times where you work on multiple stuff, and then like there's a coast maybe from switching to from this to that, and maybe this is what's happening. Maybe I should consider that because I can't stay rational and solving a problem the whole day, and then I stop like a child to solve my inner voices of what negative emotions that I did have throughout the day. So this is a problem that I'm facing, and I think like that's it. That's what I wanted to describe. So there is a bigger implication for that. It's not just about like it used to work, right? At that very moment, you would actually ignore your feeling and try to just tag whatever comes in your mind to that negative emotion. Like I'm searching for the tag. The tag is the reason and the factor. I grab the tag and I attach it to the negative emotion, and that's what I want to do at that very moment. And then there is actually a problem that started to arise as an implication that I found myself asking existential questions. And there are two parts of me that say this is not really the time to ask yourself these questions, right? There are questions about morals, about maybe purposes to live, and a lot of more things. Um, there are also these fast retrieval factors that I can bring that why these actually appeared like more serious questions in my life that I should actually answer. These type of questions that would require someone to be a monk on a mountain for 3 months is I'm not ready for this shit. I don't have time to stop and actually I do have the time, but um, like that's where I felt at least like I'm expressing the first time that it appeared in my mind. I'm expressing it the same way. So yeah, let's go back and enumerate on the reasons why I'm having these existential questions, which I hinted that they are implications of I was ignoring and not listening properly to my feelings, my especially my negative feelings, and just like tagging whatever reason to it and thinking I'm okay, I'm dealing healthy with my feelings, but I was not doing this. So the reasons that I can think of, it's yeah, let's talk about the reasons why I get frustrated when I actually had this very notion of thinking having these existential questions. I was frustrated because almost I spent my whole teenage years answering existential questions. I've read different books. I was reading Bible since I was 14, and you like I I really spend a lot of time on these philosophical, existential, religious questions and regarding whatever um, anything about the morals and why people should do good and why people should do or are actually doing bad and why there is evil in this world. And I thought I nailed it. I thought like I should close this book, and I've did. Sorry, I did really actually stop viewing any and reading any content about something that would answer or fall into the pockets of existential questions. But then like they started to kick in again, and I'm not sure was it the reason that I wasn't really exposed to the questions in terms of how they faced me in real life, and now like I'm getting tested for real, or I wasn't really um, comprehending the proposed solutions or the proposed material that I have read before, and now I should go back and actually study it rather than just memorize it or like going through the pages. So whatever, like I feel like I've spent a lot on this, and now am I going to dive into this again? So this is something, and then there is also something that's around the idea of maybe it's just the overwhelm that you know how big this sea is, but actually you might figure out at the end of the day that the reason is not that big, and it's something minor that just triggered you. So these are the things. Then let's go back to the existential questions um, and define them as implication. So implication is an effect, is a side effect of something that was you were doing, and that happened it's just born out of something. And the thing that I was doing, which I was doing wrong, which is treating my emotions, but in, let's say, the not the most appropriate way. So as a result, I started to have existential questions, rather than actually maybe I should have stopped earlier and listened to my feelings, especially the negative ones, more and more carefully.